Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to another installment of the NTC podcast, episode 84, brought to you by Sports Business Classroom. Aaron Washington here. Glad to be back with you guys after what seemed like a long but also short off season, depending how you look at it. It's been a while, but after some traveling and a whole lot of other stuff going on, glad to be back on this podcast hosting for you guys. My guest today is a familiar face to some of you, especially if you're in the Twitter scene, if you're in the writing scene, media in any kind of shape, form, or fashion. You know about Shane Young, columnist, analyst for Forbes Sports, credentialed media. He covers the NBA at large. But if you are a fan of the Clippers, the Warriors, the Suns especially, he loves to dive into those teams. He has a lot of coverage on those teams in the press conferences, in the media scrums, interviewing guys. He does a lot of that. So Shane, love your work, man. Glad to have you back on the NTC pod. It's been a while, but in any case, glad you're here, man. It should be a fun season all the way around, and hope you enjoy the off season because it's pretty much over at this point.
I appreciate it, Aaron. It's always great to talk ball, whether it's, formally like this or just meeting up, in Atlanta. So always awesome to get with you and talk some NBA. And yeah, man, hope off season's been great for you as well. I know you went like on a 2-week trip, which probably felt like a month, but
It did.
yeah, hey man, we're right around the corner. I hate when people say that because it's literally just a few days. So, but hey man, I can't wait. It's, these 82 games go by quickly, but at the same time, it's a bit of a long, grueling season, especially for a lot of these teams that have back-to-backs. I don't envy that schedule.
Me either. It's such a, even though the schedule's become more favorable in recent years for these players, I mean, it's still a grind. It's still a marathon. Guys wear down, even the best athletes in the world. So, we can't take it for granted when they do suit up for these games. But we are here just a few days away, like you said, from the start of the season. And we each have a few teams that we want to dive into that are very interesting for one form, one reason or another. But before we do that, we discussed this just before we jumped on, Shane. We each broke down our seeding predictions for the East, for the West. So we can go ahead and get those out there so we can go ahead and look like fools when the season is over. So definitely have to have some guts to put these out here in the open in the media space. But if you want to go ahead and lead us off, man, we could start with the East, go to the West.
Yeah.
How did things kind of shake out for you?
Thought the East was, I think it was easier than normal. Usually you look at these conferences and it's tight. You got a lot of 40-ish win teams, and that's still the case, right? I have like maybe 5 or 6 here that are in the 40 range, under 50 but over 30, and it's like, there's just a lot of competition in the league this year. But I do think that there, especially with the Celtics and Bucks, there's like a clear top 2. So I think, real quickly, I'll go number 1 Celtics, 2 Milwaukee. I think just those two, that's gonna be clear too. 3, I got Cleveland. 4, the Knicks. 5, Miami. I have Miami tied with the Philadelphia 76ers. I think those teams will be comparable this year. Maybe not like point differential, but I think just in wins. I think Spo gets the most of his teams. What you already know that. Mm-hmm. Hawks at 7, Pacers at 8, Raptors at 9, Nets at 10. So that's kind of my playing bunch there.
Okay. I like that list because our top 3 is actually exactly the same, which is nice. Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland. Cleveland specifically, I think they're gonna, they can take a little bit of a jump up just because those younger guys get that experience, that playoff experience. Mobley, Allen, getting that under their belt. The backcourt gets a little bit more time to sink together between Garland and Donovan Mitchell. So they're going to be a really fun team to watch. And I think we're going to get into them a little bit later here as well. 4, 5, 6, I mean, that's just really difficult to determine, I think, because Philly is still a very good team. But if Harden's not in the mix, they take a little bit of a step back. So I had them 4th, just above Miami in my rankings, followed by the New York Knicks. So, I mean, really that bunch seems to be kind of interchangeable in my opinion. The Knicks could win a few more, a few less. Miami, but I think no matter who you ask, Miami is going to fall between 5 and 7, most likely. For me, I see them winning, and I didn't do my win predictions for every team necessarily, but just thinking about where they can fall, I'm at about 40, 45, 46,
Yeah.
something like that. A little bit better than last season, but still not breaking 50. I think they have some holes left on that
Mhm.
roster they weren't able to fill in the offseason, which could hurt them a little bit as far as their top end goes. And to kind of fill out that top 10, man, I mean, I have ATL and Indiana, 7-8. So I think we're
Okay.
pretty close on that. Followed by Brooklyn at 9 and Chicago at 10 for
Ooh,
fill out my 10.
you think
I
Chicago
Chicago,
is a
I have
better
them
team than
squeaking in
Toronto
there.
right now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about Toronto. I'm actually not very high on Toronto.
Okay.
Just to kind of be transparent, I have them in the lottery. No, that could end up definitely being a little bit wrong on this one. Schroeder looks really good so far in preseason. I was
Yeah.
just really worried about them losing Van Vliet, and their offense is already kind of a slog. But I mean, if their defense can kind of hold them in games,
Yeah.
especially against some of these better teams in the East, that gives them a chance to be better than I think. So I could see that. But when it
Plus,
comes
you
to the
don't.
Bills, yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, plus you don't know how a coaching change really like it could be the Nick Nurse thing where they are just they're storming through teams because
Sure.
they needed that change of voice and schematic differences. Like I haven't really dialed into what they're going to do defensively, but I haven't watched every Raptors preseason game. Forgive me, but I think it's going to be probably a little bit better than what Nick Nurse was doing. I mean, I just think they were too hyper aggressive. I thought they really wore down their guys on defense because of he just wants to attack every single ball screen, uh, you know, trap every time he can, just play these junk defenses, and that really just takes a toll on your guys. And especially when you need your offensive production from Pascal and OG and Scotty Barnes, I think playing a little bit more conservatively defensively. I haven't really seen if that's been the case, but I feel like it could only get better from what Nick Nurse was trying to do with that team. I like Nick Nurse as a coach, but more so offensively. I think he does some really cool stuff on that end of the floor. They just didn't have the talent, the scoring talent last year for one reason or another. And
Right.
Scotty Barnes was still young. He's still young, but right. But I think he's going to take not another leap, but I think just another step forward.
Yeah.
And I got to be honest, like I'm not high on them either. I think I have them at 38 wins. Like that's not high,
Yeah.
but I value their floor more than I do, and just barely more than I do Brooklyn, who they have a lot of long active defenders that's going to be a nightmare to play against. But I just don't, I really worry about both of those half court offenses, Brooklyn and Toronto.
Mhm.
I think I would value Toronto's floor a little bit more than say Orlando, Chicago, or Brooklyn.
That's fair. That's fair. I could definitely see that. My rationale for throwing Chicago there at 10, and I mean, really, I think it's to be really close. I don't see them,
Yeah, all these teams are going to be
kind of,
close
yeah. I mean, maybe a few games, if that, getting just squeaking by into the playing tournament. But I look at what they have in Levine and DeRozan, and just the ability for those guys to probably get them maybe two or so wins that they otherwise wouldn't get.
Yeah.
Especially DeRozan, just the way he's just such a clutch performer, is huge
Mhm.
for them. If Pat Will could take another tiny little step forward and really kind of
Yeah.
solidify his place at the four, and of course Vucevic, like I just see that blend of players along with Caruso. I mean, Caruso really kind of boosted their defensive rating way higher than it otherwise would have been.
Yeah.
Another super valuable guy, either off the bench or starting for them. They just gave that extension to Sunmu, which just surprised me a little bit. But another guy
Kobe
that they
White. Kobe White looks really good.
yeah, Kobe White as well. I have him as like a dark horse 6 man of the year candidate if he does end up coming off the bench. So I think those combination of factors for me, it gave me enough confidence for them to at least be right there at the kind of cutoff line.
Yeah. Totally,
So
totally fair. I think I'm just kind of like I have no reason to believe this, but I'm just banking on DeRozan's magic to kind of run out. Like
it has
it's
to eventually, right?
it's been so long, and
Yeah,
he's actually been healthy for the most part,
he
unless I'm
has.
misremembering something from last year. But like I just feel like at some point I just think they're kind of done as a team, and they're going to blow it up at some point. Maybe
I,
February trade deadline. So
I do too. Whether it's February, the off
yeah,
season, I mean, something's got to change. I mean, you
you
really
want to
just they found their ceiling. So
for sure. All
that's
right,
that's clear.
you got to rattle off the West now. Your top
Oh
10 in the
boy.
West.
The West is gonna be fun, man. I think
Yeah.
we're gonna be in agreement on some of these teams, but I know one right off the bat we're not gonna be in agreement on. I think
Oh.
you realize they're pretty quick. So as far as my seeding for the West, my top three here is Denver, Phoenix, and the Lakers as my top three. So I know at least at the top in both conferences we're in agreement. So there's that. They're easier teams to predict though.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it gets interesting. I have Memphis at 4, followed by Golden State at 5. So that's already a little bit of a difference there. Uh, this is so tough, man. I don't feel great about the West at all. I think this is a lot more challenging than the East. But the Kings, Clippers, and Pelicans round out my top 8, followed by the Mavs. And I go back and forth. I really want to put – I probably should put Minnesota at 10. I'm probably going to end up changing this. I have OKC at 10 right now.
Oh.
But I might need to swap that with the Timberwolves just because.
Wait, so Minnesota's out of the play-in?
In this draft, yes, I had them out of the play-in. But like I said, I have it to opening night, so
yeah,
I
do.
might need to switch that.
Your assignment's not due till 11:59 on Monday.
That's right.
So you're good.
I'm a procrastinator, man. I'm going to turn it at the very last second.
Hey, man, like I think it's you bring up good points about. Well, actually, we didn't talk about points yet, but the fact that you have the Lakers third, I don't hate it, and essentially, what I want fans to understand if they're looking at my standings that I posted on Twitter earlier and bashing me for a certain team, it's that I have the Lakers at 6th. I guess I'll go through them right now. Nuggets 1, Suns 2, Warriors 3, Grizzlies 4, Clippers 5, Lakers 6, Kings 7, Timberwolves 8. And, between 3 and 6 is only 2 wins for me. 49 for the Warriors at 3rd, 47 for the Lakers at 6. So they're essentially the same kind of team, right? I'm just a little skeptical that LeBron is ever going to be able to put together 60 games again. And I think that, honestly, I think that should be fair to estimate at this point because his last 3 seasons, 45 of 72 games played, 56 of 82, 55 of 82. I need some evidence that old man Bron can play a whole season right now, right? And we haven't even touched on his counterpart, AD. I mean, that guy, he's vowed to play all 82. I'm gonna just say right now that will be gone in the second week of the season. He's gonna miss a game at some point, so that goal will have to be reduced to something else. So I'm just kind of building in the fact that they're going to lose, let's say, 15 to 20 games off injuries alone in some way or another. Austin Reeves is awesome. He's great. I don't really quibble with anyone that says he's a third star for them. I mean, he is a star for them. Doesn't mean he's gonna make the All-Star team or anything like that. But the guy, have you seen his efficiency for Austin Reeves during the season or during the preseason? It's been just through the roof. I think that his creation is going to take a whole new level this year. He could, push his averages. I don't even want to say a number, but I mean, people shouldn't be shocked at some of the scoring games he's going to have. I like Taurean Prince. I like, I don't really like D'Angelo Russell for them, but Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, they really got some scorers and defensive guys now for Darvin Ham and that Lakers group. So I don't really mind at all that you have them third. I mean, to me, they could easily finish third or second.
Sure. And I mean, of course, those guys, their health is going to be paramount. That's the big factor here, the big X factor. And if they do end up missing as many games as you say they will, they could definitely find themselves kind of in the middle of the pack there.
Yeah.
I guess, I don't know. For some reason, I want to believe that they'll play. I mean, nothing crazy. I don't see 70 games or anything for these guys. But if you can hit 60, 65, and then also just the guys they brought in and the depth they kind of built around AD and LeBron, I think will help them be a little bit more resilient in the event that those guys do miss games. I mean, they can play several different ways. They can play big. They can play small. They can play with more defenders, more shooters. So I think just the versatility they have along with the depth, I think they're one of the most complete teams in the league, honestly, from top to bottom. They're going to have guys that are out of the rotation that are, definitely rotation caliber guys. So all those things kind of together kind of led me to put them in the top 4 of the conference. I'm really high on them this year.
Awesome.
So
Yeah, so I think there's a few differences here and there. I think we're more lockstep in the East, but a few differences. One of them being a team I want to talk about as one of my most interesting teams, which I know you want to tee up right now. So,
Yes,
um, yeah, I guess we'll go ahead and get into that because
let's do it.
we could go on and on about teams that are below the cut in the West because I honestly this is a year where I think the Spurs and Rockets fans are going to feel slighted because both of them drastically improved their teams, but there's only so many wins to go around. Like on average, the West wins about 608, 610 games a year. Like, I'm sorry, you have to lose games, and I unless you want to tell me like a team like New Orleans or Dallas just plummets to the bottom. There's really not going to be a lot to go around for these teams. Utah's a good one, a good example. So uh, I'll hand it over to you there.
So, getting this next section started, man. I mean, we each have three teams, and if we have some overlap, we can of course throw in some extra teams here. But this is a team that I feel very confident is probably the team with the widest variance, the greatest variance in terms of like where they can end up. I think they can end up as high as 4, maybe even 3 in the West, or as low as maybe 10. New Orleans Pelicans, man, is a team that and from your reaction, I can see that I think we're in agreement on this
Yeah.
one as a really interesting team. Like for me, they're number one just because Zion. I mean, he kind of like completely changes the trajectory of the team through mid-December of last year. They were the top of the conference. That tells you right there, like this team is legitimately, right there in contender status if
Yeah.
Zion is 100%. That is a huge question mark. 114 games in his career so far. That's not even 2 seasons worth of games. 61 is his current high. I think 2021 he hit 61 games, which is okay. But I mean, if he were to hit 60 to 70 games, I mean, there's no telling where this team can end up. And even going back to last season where you played 29 games, I mean,
Yeah.
Zion was at about 26 points a game, 61% shooting, and I'm not going to use field goal percentage. I did this for you, Shane.
Yes.
2-point
Yes.
percentage was 61% last season. So his efficiency, just the fact that he could be a playmaker with the ball in his hands, he can be super dangerous without the ball in his hands, playing out of the dunker spot, being a cutter. He's just deadly. And then you look at the fact that Ingram, when healthy, 25-5, 25-5-5,
Yeah.
pretty easily.
And he wasn't healthy last year. Bi had a toe
No,
injury, kept him out for 40 something games, maybe a little bit
yeah,
more.
he missed a solid couple of months with that injury, which further brought down their win total. And with all that being said, and all that coming together, I mean, they were still. It's not like they dropped to the lottery. I mean, they were still in that mix, the play-in mix. I mean, they were still a decent team, and a big reason for that was the play of Trey Murphy the third. 40% at 6 threes a game is lethal, man. I mean,
Yeah.
just incredible shooting.
And you know me. To your point, man, you nailed it. You know me. If you're at 40%, I think that 6 attempts should be 10.
Yeah,
So
let's up it a little bit. I mean, how far can you go with that? And unfortunately, he's going to miss the first several weeks of the season. Just really unfortunate for the Pelicans. But the good news on that front is that he made the decision to have that meniscus repaired
yeah.
instead of removed. Removal would have put him back in the lineup probably around the start of the season, but his long term is hurt. His longevity is going to be reduced by doing this, missing the first however many games it is, 15, 20 games, whatever it is. He's going to be okay for the long term. And going into, I think, his 4th season now, that is the most important thing for him. Got to be healthy for the long term because you're one of the cornerstones of this team. He's the guy that's good enough if for whatever reason they move on from Ingram, if something happens there. I mean, Trey Murphy is a guy that could step in and be a long-term starter with his shooting, with his athleticism, everything he brings to the table. So those 3 guys are really going to set the tone for them, followed by CJ. I mean, you know what you're going to get from CJ, though. He's going to be that
Yeah.
steady guy for you. So New Orleans, man.
Yeah.
I mean, what else can you say? They're just super interesting.
Yeah. Trey going into his 3rd season, just looked at it.
3rd
The
season.
fact that like this, he honestly would have been my most improved player had we not heard news about the injury or anything like that. But he could still come back and win that. I would
Sure.
caution against expecting that type of production off a knee injury, right? And we
Mhm.
don't really know the extent of how bad I guess it was, but surgery, right? So, went from 5 points a game to 14 and a half last year, 61 on twos, 40. I mean, the guy was one of the most efficient players in the league, period. Like,
Oh
not
yeah.
just out of second year guy, it's just period. And a solid defender. So yeah, I agree. I think New Orleans has that ceiling of like 50 and 32. I think is probably their ceiling. If everything breaks right, I just don't see them winning more than that because you have to factor in even if everything breaks right, is still Zion missing 10 to 15 games, right? Like
Right.
he's not going to play more than 70. I don't think ever in his career. If he does, hey, love to be wrong.
Yeah.
But Willie Green is just an awesome coach, just an awesome coach, and really, I think Monty Williams told me last year, like it just goes back to these former players getting jobs. It proves that like, especially if you didn't play that long ago, like Willie Green was a teammate of Chris Paul, which is just wild to think about at this point because
Crazy.
Chris is still playing. I think entering year 19. Like these former players turn coaches. I mean, typically it always pans out. Still, I guess the jury's out on Chauncey Billups right now. We'll
I
see.
was just thinking about him. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But another former teammate of Chris Paul, by the way. So I think New Orleans has probably a floor of maybe uh, 29, 30 if just everything goes wrong. So you're right. That variance of 20 wins is just nuts. It's not
Hmm.
typically something you see in the Western Conference. So yeah, I think they're really interesting. I'm kind of going to split the difference and I'm a hedge and say they'll finish as a 500 team this year. I think one way to kind of I think one thing they're going to do this year, I haven't heard anything about that, in any insider information or anything, but like I feel like they're going to take it easy on Zion to kind of, he was missing some games, for rest or whatever you want to call it, but I think they'll probably try to amp that up a little bit just to make sure because you don't want to overwork him. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a feeling maybe he got hurt just being overworked. He because they were the 1 seed, right? I mean, I think they were
Hmm.
20-14 or 20-15. I don't know what their record was, but they were the 1 seed at a certain point in the
Yep.
season, in a jumbled Western Conference. So I could see them, giving him nights off just to make sure that hamstrings, knees, everything's good to go.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I think they have just a chance to be the best offense in basketball if they really had everyone clicking all the cylinders. But you and
Yeah.
I know it's not going to happen.
No. Really unfortunate, man, because they could be really, really good.
Yeah.
But this is going to be almost like a make or break season. There could easily be some big changes if the same thing happens. We see the same outcome where they finish around 40 wins and they bow out in the first round or in the play-in. I mean, there could be some real changes coming. So this is a
Mm-hmm.
huge season for everybody. And one other player I wanted to highlight here, Herb Jones. We can't forget about this guy. I mean, I'm sure you heard about Stephen No's top 100 defenders in the league. I went back and looked at his ranking here. He was at 16, eye test ranking of 22, Darko rank of 21. I think that's one of those systems where you throw in a bunch of different factors and it comes up with the rating. So I mean they're about equal.
Yeah.
Some players there's a crazy difference in those ranks, but they're
To me,
about
eye
equal.
test is even higher than 16 or whatever it was to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, I think all the factors together between eye test and everything gives him the 16. And then he already has 15 uh, defensive player of the year / all defensive votes. And he's a really young player. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you throw that in, that's just insane to think about. He has the eye test going for him. He has the reputation of a great defender. He has it all. So when you throw that into the mix with a nuclear talent like Zion and Ingram, like they really have excellent performance on both ends of the ball, paired with that great coaching you were talking about. So I love the Pelicans roster. It just comes down to like who's going to be able to play.
Yeah.
That's the biggest question right now.
It's
Again,
also like you hate. Why does it always have to be this way too, Aaron? Like why does a defensive all star like Herb Jones have to be like have to have that shooting whoa, like that he has. I mean, it's just like, Andre Robertson, that was to an insane degree, right? Like Herb's
Yeah,
not that bad of a shooter
right.
compared to what Andre was, but it just like, why can't we have nice things? Like why can't Herb Jones be able to be on the floor in crunch time? I mean,
Yeah,
I really feel
tough.
like it's hard to kind of trust whenever his guy is playing 8 to 10 feet away from him because they don't trust that shot, even in the corner. So, if he gets that up to just respectable 35, 36, 37% for like, on moderate volume, because the thing is, it starts getting in your head if you get the ball wide open and you don't shoot it, right? That just hurts your own
Right.
offense. So, you know, I, it always kills me like whenever you see guys that could be just incredible all NBA players, but they can't shoot.
Yeah, it really is. Just
So,
it's tough, man. There's very few of those guys out there. But at least with Herb, it's going to keep him in games,
mhm.
and we'll see if he's able to kind of bring the shooting necessary for him to close games. Uh, but give me another team, man. It looks like we're in agreement on one.
Yeah.
You give me another team you're looking at as just being really, really interesting and someone you want to follow close next season.
Oh, I mean, the obvious is OKC, but I'm not going to do it because
Yeah.
it's so obvious they've been talked about ad nauseum, right? And I think we agree like their range is kind of low. OKC, like we just talked about a team that might have a variance of 20 wins. I think OKC is going to
Mhm.
be anywhere from like 37 to 44.
Yeah, I agree
I
with
think
that.
that would be it for them, right? Less than
Yeah.
10. For me, it's a team that no one is talking about. It's a team that I don't have in the play-in mix, but I really, really wanted to. What do you think about Utah?
Ooh,
The
that's
Jazz
that's tough, man.
they have every reason to be better than last year's 37 win team, right?
Sure.
Every reason. I mean, Laurie taking the next step forward. Walker Kessler looked like a stud last year, and he's already just he. I hate to say it, but like he's approaching Rudy Gobert level of rim protection as a second year guy. Just kind of
Crazy.
bonkers to see that, right?
Yeah.
I think he averaged like a million blocks last year, but it's besides the blocks, it's being a rim deterrent. Clarkson's just a microwave off the bench. Colin Sexton has some moves, has some tools in his bag. I really like Keontae George. Like they have reasons to be a 41 team, but I couldn't get there. I'm at 34 for them. I
Mhm.
just think it's because of math. I just don't think that they
Yeah.
can win enough games against these teams that know how valuable seeding is. Like a team like Memphis, a team like Golden State. I just don't see those teams losing to Utah in clutch moments. Now maybe they'll drop a couple here and there, but I think for the most part, the top 8 they're going to be able to handle Utah when the games are close. I see Utah as a really good high point differential. Like I say high, as in still negative, but like maybe -1 or 2. But a 34 win team because maybe clutch, maybe they run out of luck there.
Yeah, Shane, this is really difficult for me in the rankings because I want to put them higher. I really
Yeah,
do because all the reasons you mentioned. I mean, Walker Kessler's the real deal. Markkanen's the real deal. I mean, he came out of nowhere last season to really be an all-star and one of the best guys in the league. For me, it really just comes down to what you said, the math. Some few of these teams have to be at the bottom. Someone
yeah,
has to finish relatively low. I have them at 13 in my seating, right behind Utah, or rather Houston.
hmm
It's so tough, man. Once you get to like 11, 12, 13, like those are teams that are capable of being in the
yeah,
next group. Maybe they will be, but with Utah, they still have some things to figure out. I think their guard rotation is solid, but Keontae George is going to get a lot of time, and he's going to need some reps to kind of find his way in the league. He was awesome in summer league, but he's going to have those rookie moments to where he's not quite sharp enough. There's
hmm
turnovers, there's bad shot selection. So without that Mike Conley presence there, I think it's a little bit more in flux. Talking about the guard rotation, um, they do look really good. I mean, John Collins is a great pickup, but you just kind of wonder how they're going to balance those minutes between him and
yeah,
Markkanen and Kessler and how they fit together. So yeah, I mean, I do agree they're super interesting. I like the decision, like the choice. They weren't on my list, but um, I think
and
they're definitely one of the most interesting just because of
yeah.
where they can end up and what they're still trying to kind of figure out there.
To your point, addition and by addition I mean John Collins, doesn't always mean improvement.
Yeah, exactly.
It could knock them back, and
A
that's
lot of
not to say
factors
John
involved.
Collins. Definitely not to say John Collins is a bad player. You got to watch him a lot in Atlanta.
Hmm.
He's a good player, not an all-star, but a good player, a net positive, I think, for any team. But maybe the fit just isn't there.
The
Maybe
fit,
it
that's the
does muck up
question.
some of the spacing.
Yeah,
Maybe it does hurt them. To the same, I guess, reasons that Atlanta was willing to just dump them because they want to space the floor a little bit more, play a little bit more pick and roll with Capella and Kongu. So I mean, I just for me, I think the Collins edition, it's going to take a little bit, maybe a couple months to get that figured out. And really, in the West, a couple months is maybe, let's say, eight to 7 wins that you're not going to
yeah,
get. So that could be justification for knocking them down. So yeah, I think we're in agreement. Utah, we like them. We're going to watch them play a lot, but not going to be in the play-in mix unless one of these teams falters above them. And you and I are probably wrong. Like a team like the Clippers or a team like the Kings just might have injuries and fall apart, and then that's all you need. But
sure, sure,
so
for sure, man. But yeah, looking at the roster, I mean, really, really solid roster. I mean, Chris Dunn has made a resurgence. I love what he's done
yeah,
so far and the minutes he's gotten. THT, of course, is going to be another solid player for them. You mentioned Colin Sexton before. He's another guy that, if he plays enough games coming off the bench, I think he can be in the sixth man of the year conversation. It wasn't that long ago. He was at over 20 points a game with the Cavaliers. So, I mean, he obviously has
yeah,
that explosive ability there. They're two rookies. Sensibo and Hendricks aren't probably not going to get a lot of time this season, but I think they give them another element on the wing that in time will put them in position to be, I think, a little bit better than this season. They're more of those pure wings as opposed to the bigs that you have with Collins and
yeah.
Markkanen. So especially with Hendricks, his two-way ability it really makes them interesting to follow long term. But again, there's only so many wins to go around. Somebody has to take the L, so to speak. But I do love their coaching. I love their system they have going, the building blocks. I mean, this is a team that effectively they didn't they're not rebuilding, so to speak, because I feel like they're too good for a straight rebuild.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a team that was 50 plus wins every single season, top of the West, and then they removed their two best players. The fact that they're even still in a conversation for maybe being in the plan, it's a testament to that front office and the coaching staff. They've done a great job. So I mean, you got to give a hat tip to Utah just because of what they've been able to do in such a short period of time there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, Will Hardy had I don't who won Coach of the Year last year. Was it? Oh, Mike Brown. Will Hardy had a good case. So they had another team that nailed their coaching hire. So just hopefully everything, hopefully the fans, it's more so the fans. Hopefully the fans don't think just because they take a step back, if they do, that all hope is lost. You still have a good budding team. It's gonna take more than 1 year of rebuild. So
And we
you have
say it all the time. It's growth is not linear. This goes for
yes,
players and teams. Like
yes.
you're not just going to ascend and ascend continuously. There's going to be some valleys in there, so you just kind of have to ride the wave on the growth
Mhm.
curve.
Can you do you want to take us east or do you want to keep us in the west?
Let's see who I have, man. Let's see who I have next on my list. For my next team, I'll keep us in the West. I'll go ahead and keep us in the West here.
So,
This is a team I got to watch last night. They were playing the Miami Heat. I watched them pretty closely. Houston is another team that I think is going to be really interesting. I think they also have, I mean, nothing to the degree of the Pelicans, but I think they also have kind of a decent range of outcomes because they're still young. They're still trying to figure some things out, but they do have some reinforcements here. They have the Van Vliet acquisition. They have more veteran leadership, which I think in any case, they're going to be better than last year. I think
and more
regardless.
leadership with Ime Udoka.
Yeah, that too. I mean, yeah, he was in the headlines for the wrong reasons, but at the end of the day, great coach is a great coach,
Yeah.
and he's gonna put them in a position to be successful any way he can. So you look at what they have here in the Rockets, bringing in Thompson, uh, losing Kevin Porter hurts for sure, but I'm low key. Of course, I'm not happy that he went through that situation, but I do like the fact that Amin Thompson is going to have more opportunities to showcase his skills. Uh, got to watch him in person. here in Atlanta, OTE, and I mentioned this on Twitter before. His athletic skill set, even by NBA standards, is really incredible. Just looking
Yeah.
at the way he runs the floor, especially with the ball in his hands. Like there's a certain group of players, like it almost seems like when they get the ball, they're faster than when they don't have the ball. You think of like a De'Aaron Fox or John Wall or Westbrook, like they get the ball and it's like they can still just outpace everybody on the fast break. A guy like that for them, in addition to his vision, it's really wild. Like you see the pass he's able to make as a guard there in that rotation. It's really incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't wait to see him get more minutes as a result of that whole situation. Question for you though, when it comes to Jalen Green, this is something I noticed here just watching Twitter, watching the headlines. I don't see nearly as much hype for Jalen Green as
Mm-hmm.
last season. I see Jabari Walker. I see Sengun. I see Thompson. Not as much talk about Jalen Green. Do you have you noticed that at all yourself? And if so, why do you think that is?
I think it's just the realization that Fred VanVleet is taking let's call it 15 shots, 18 shots from Jalen and from the Rockets. The realization that he's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, Fred is. So maybe it's just like a wait and see thing. Because I say we are going to expect Jalen Green's usage to drop, but at the same time, do you really want that? I think you probably want it high still, within reason. I think he still is a inefficient chucker at times, and when I say at times, I mean all the time. but I love the guy. I think he's awesome. Now, I sound like I'm hating on him, but he is explosive. He is quick. I think processing speed in terms of pick and roll, um, making those reads, making passes out of those, not just coming around, not just coming off the screen, head down, wanting to score every time, but knowing that sometimes the best read is to get the open man in the corner, the weak side, or the roll to Shingun or whoever's going to be popping like Jabari Smith. So I think it's just going to take some time for him. And hey, the good news is Jalen Green has weapons now. He's got shooting. Say what you want about Dylan Brooks. I think he's going to have a better shooting year. I think he's going to be a little bit more open, probably, just because of all the threats that he has around at this point in the half court. So I
Mm,
really like Fred for them, though. I think Van Vliet, although he's undersized, um, really brings that championship mindset and experience. And that's not to say this team is going to go from whatever they were at 19, 20 wins last year to 30. I think I got them at like 28, 29. But um, I think their ceiling's a little bit. I don't think their ceiling is a 40-win team. I see people thinking, they can creep into the play-in. Maybe if the West is just really down this year. But, I think there's a ceiling on this team defensively. And, I understand like Dylan Brooks is going to bring that edge, but we've seen how often do guards or small forwards really change the trajectory of your defense. If that was the case, Kawhi and PG would have top 5 to top 1 defensive rating numbers when they're together, but they don't. They have
right.
good defensive numbers when they're together, but I don't really think it changes the complexion. I think you need to have a great center as your quarterback, like a Rudy Gobert or something like that, to have a good baseline as a defense. Brooke Lopez, a good example. Like when him and Giannis are available, the Bucks are always going to have a good defense, no matter what. It might slip a little bit this year in Milwaukee because of point of attack, but I think center is the most important defensive position. So, for me, I still need to see that from Alfred Şengün. I need to see him being able to close games because his coach doesn't pull him for uh, defensive errors, or just not being in the right spot, or fouling too much, whatever the case is. So yeah, I mean, I like this team. I don't love them. I don't love them. I think that what they did bring in, they're actually kind of deep for a team that we're not picking to win 30 games. Like they're pretty deep. I think they're just deep in terms of competent guys that can go out there and be inning eaters, right?
Yeah.
Reggie Bullock, I really like him. Jock Landale covered him last year with the Suns for a little bit.
Hmm.
Going to be a great. He's one of the best backup bigs because he knows his role and doesn't overstep. So this
sure.
is a good pick. I like because they're going to be probably top 5, and I don't think that's aggressive. Top 5 like league pass teams where oh my god, like I want to turn on Houston and watch them because I think they have a chance to score like 120 every night. Like
Oh,
it's going to be
100%.
crazy, especially
100%.
if they start taking the right shots. I think they need to take a little bit more threes. Funny enough, like I think they kind of got away from that Morey Ball approach. You know, when Daryl left and they revamped, they kind of reconstructed the team. But hey, Fred VanVleet, as you and I know, he's going to take 10 threes a game. So, hey,
Mhm.
more pull up threes. I think this team will be good.
I'll go back to your league pass ranking here first before I address a couple other things. I do league pass tiers every year. I really need to make this public.
Yeah, I didn't know you did this.
Yep. I have 4 or 5 tiers of league pass teams. I think I started this last year. But yeah, I have 5 tiers. My number 1 tier is box office, pure box office. Rockets are squarely in that tier.
Are they
Um,
really?
yes.
Oh wow!
Yes.
I was just throwing a number. I probably sounded insane to a lot of viewers, thinking that they're going to turn on League Pass and go to Houston over a team like Golden
If
State or something. But
they should. They 100% should. Like Cam, what you can watch any Rockets game, you're guaranteed to see at least one incredible highlight every
yeah,
night. Between Sun Guns passing, Thompson doing whatever he's going to do in the air, between uh, all these like Cam Whitmore dunking over somebody and being called for a charge. Something along those lines is going to happen every single game. Jalen Green, you just talked about him. I compared him on Twitter last night to a Tesla. And we don't know about Teslas, but their electric powertrain, instant go. There's no wait, there's no
okay.
delay. Instant from that 0 to 60 is just incredible. And that's what I see
Sport
from Jalen
mode.
Green. Sport mode engaged.
Okay.
That's exactly right. The way he just goes from like standing still to just like pass his defender, like just
I've
blows
only
my
been in
heart
one
every
Tesla, Aaron, so I can't really, I can't really speak from experience here.
time. Yeah, I mean, I've never
It
driven
was a
one or
Uber, it was an Uber in Boston. So
okay, but it's just yeah, that's just what they're all about, man. And that's what Jalen Green's about. Just that 0 to 60 is crazy. Um, Now I want to go to Van Vliet and Sengun. Van Vliet, talking about him taking all those threes. I'm really interested to see if he can bounce back a little bit as far as 3-point percentage. I think
he was
last year,
awful.
34%. And, you look at the years past, he's about 36, 37. In 1920, he was at 39. His second season, he was at 41. So, I mean, you look at his career average, it's at about 37. So that's a pretty big drop for him.
And he
I
has
think,
to hit threes because this is not
yeah,
a guy that's getting to the rim and finishing
right,
at a good rate. Only 41% from two a couple of years ago, 44, 45. I mean, he's
yeah,
small. He can get to where he needs to go, but after that, I mean, he's not really efficient.
right. And when you look at his efficiency as a whole, that was a big part of it, the 3-point shooting. So hopefully that can get back to the level of what it was the past few years. A reason for that could be that defensive coverage and the way he was playing under Nick Nurse that might have played a part. He had a huge load on his shoulders trying to keep that offense above water
Hmm.
because their half court offense is, like we talked about before, it's just not great. So hopefully now with Houston, with a few other explosive weapons alongside him, and then a legitimate post threat like Sengun next to him, hopefully he doesn't have as much of a load on his shoulders every single possession trying to create offense, and his numbers rise back to what they were before. I'm hopeful that's what happens here, and he gets a little bit more of a bounce back, not in terms of raw numbers, but just in terms of his overall efficiency, because that was a drop for him.
Hmm.
And he did get worn down. I think that was a big part of his play kind of fluctuating last season. So I'm excited to see what that could mean for him specifically. Sengun, that is a player that I had highlighted for this team because I wonder if he's going to have the ability, the opportunity to kind of play out of that high post and really be a distributor
Yeah.
the way that's where he's at his best. But if you're playing with the Jalen Green, if you're playing with Amon Thompson, guys like that, Cam Whitmore, I wonder if he's going to have as many opportunities to play out of the area of the floor as he should. That's my big worry there.
Hey man, I think it's fitting that I'm saying this to you. I think that his prototype or his archetype on offense should be the DHO game with Bam,
Mm,
or that Bam plays with Tyler, with Jimmy, uh, Vincent Struess whenever they're, especially Struess in that playoff run.
hmm
I think if Shingun has to be that hub where
Yeah.
okay, maybe they're not going to respect me from X distance away, quick pivot or quick pitch for a DHO. Be a good screener. Do it legally. Don't get called for stupid fouls. I feel like he will get in foul trouble quite a bit. Just inexperience, right? But it's making the pass. It's making those reads and helping Fred, Jalen, Cam get open. And that's really instead of being this low post fancy score that we kind of see from him from Alfred Şengün all the time, it's like maybe you should just kind of pivot your role to being that setup guy. So that's a really good call out because I hadn't really thought about his role until we started talking about Houston. But man, forget the Jokic. People want to say when they think of passing big, they go to Jokic. That's like saying the Steph Curry shooting. You don't want to. You can't replicate that, but I think you can replicate what Bam does for Miami.
mm. I can see that. I like that. I like that. Sometimes we set the bar a little bit too high for these players. Like you give them a bar that's so high, like 0.01% of players are going to reach it.
Yeah.
I'll give you a great example here. This wasn't on my list, by the way, of most interesting teams, but a guy on this team that played last
Oh
night.
my God.
We might be getting a little bit
A
ahead of
guy. I
ourselves.
saw an alien. I didn't see a human.
Or
I
this
didn't
is not
see
what
it.
he is. He's not. He's definitely that. You know what is not real. That's what I see that thrown around all the time. I see that Jeff thrown around on Twitter of
Oh
like
yeah, yeah,
it's
off the
not real.
airplane.
Yep. So that's how I think of him. He's just He's
I
not.
think
He's not.
Mark Schindler posted that. Someone posted that the other day. It was like when you see Wemby play, it's like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
I posted that too one day. It's just so accurate. But yeah, we gotta slow our roll a little bit. So I think with Sengun, that's a great point. Just let him be who he is, the best
Sabonis
version
is
of
another
himself.
one I didn't think about till just now. So
Oh yeah, yeah, that's definitely another good one. He's definitely in the one of the best passing bigs in our game. But maybe we should slow our roll a little bit before we anoint him as one of the best passers of all time.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, and really like the reads that Bam makes. I mean, being at that nail area, he's one of the best as well. I just think it's more
yeah.
attainable to kind of watch film of him and hopefully that. I'm trying to think if Ime Udoka had anything like that. Al Horford, I would say that Ime might show Sengun some Al Horford film on both ends of the
Sure.
floor for that matter.
Oh yeah,
So it's a good
definitely.
point. Um,
Uh, Give me another team of yours, man. I think we had the same for one
yeah,
at Houston. Where are we going with this one? Which conference are we going?
I'm stuck between two, but you know what? I'm gonna go out east, and just a couple minutes on this team because we already know they're great. But I want to get another perspective to see if I'm just insane.
Okay.
You already know what I'm gonna say. I mean, is Boston just the best team we've had in a while? Because I think they are. I think they're the best team we've seen construction wise since probably the 2019 Raptors.
Mm.
Now that's not going back far, and I'm trying to see if
Yeah.
I forgot somebody, but I think this team, and I guess you could even say, funny enough, you could say the Kyrie and Gordon Hayward Celtics, just the way they were
Oh yeah.
supposed to be balanced, but they were not by
Right.
any means. But I think this team is going to realize that potential, and I have them at 58 wins. But I guess the reason I'm saying they're interesting is because I just want to see how good they can be, and I
Yeah.
want to see if Drew Holiday is going to accept coming off the bench sometimes. I just think it's fascinating that we have a team that's this good that can play small with Porzingis at the 5, and then Tatum or Brown at 4, whoever, just go with one big,
Right.
and then also bring in Horford and just
Yeah.
miss no beat going in those double big lineups. So
Yeah.
to me, I'm asking you, do they have the best top 6 in basketball?
I'm struggling to think of one better. Honestly, you
Yeah.
just look at what they bring to the table in terms of the wing rotation. 2 guys that can give you 40 in a given night. You go to Holiday. I mean, one of the steadiest guys in the league, all defensive team, pretty much year in and year out. And then, of course, and you just talked about Porzingis too, like being able to play him at the 5. It's not like you lose anything there when it comes to rim protection.
Yeah.
You're gonna have another guy he's still freaking 7'3". So I mean, you're gonna have a rim deterrent, at all times. So you have a guy like Holiday to where you can play him at the point of attack.
Mm-hmm.
He's chasing guys off the line. He's following them inside.
Exactly.
Guess what? You have that guy from Latvia waiting for you, along with 2 other good defenders in Brown and Tatum. I mean, Tatum was on that top 100 defenders list. I can't remember exactly where he finished. I think he was in the 60s. But I mean, it's not like on the wing they're lacking for defensive guys either. So yeah, that top 6, I think when it comes to the balance, of what they're capable of on offense and defense, I think it's unmatched, honestly.
Yeah, I think Joe Mazzulla got a bad rap for last year. I mean, I've never seen anything like it, Aaron. You get 1 win, 1/2 away from a NBA Finals berth, and all of a sudden you are just a failure. like people are questioning whether he should come back. Like they had to ask the fact that they had to ask Brad Stevens in the exit interview, is Joe going to be back? Like that's a little insulting. Like
that's crazy.
Like it's just funny. But Spo went through that as well, right? 2011 Finals. Like they had to wonder if he was coming back after that. So
that's true.
I mean, it is what it is. Like he'll earn his stripes there. I'm so ready to see how they play, because I'm not even really worried about their defense when it comes to the Porzingis thing, because as you said, it's going to be still good rim protection. Maybe not like Rob Williams, what he was able to do, just athletically, just a monster. Sure. But offensively, I just see the driving lanes from having Porzingis, who you have to be attached to. You might not have to be glued to him until he starts hitting shots, but you have to be like within 2 or 3 feet, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have that with Robert Williams. You really didn't have that with Al Horford. People would let Al Horford shoot. I mean, most of his threes were open. It's like, hey, if you get hot, hey, we'll adjust. But until you get hot, we're gonna let you shoot them. You're not doing that with Porzingis, man. Like, I just think Jalen and Jason are going to average both over 25, 26. And this is the best opportunity. I didn't pick him to win it, but this is the best opportunity for Tatum to win MVP. He's going to have everything imaginable. The wins case, the statistical case, and probably better efficiency. I mean, who knows? He always goes through a slump at some point, but
True that. But yeah, they're a fascinating case for sure.
I just had to throw in an elite team because we're naming off some sub 30s over here. So
sure
naming off an elite team here. But
yeah, that's very fair, man. You said you were torn between 2. Was the other team another kind of team down there in the 30s, or were they also an elite team for you?
They were also a good team, but out west. But I just don't know how good. I don't know if the Phoenix Suns are going to be as great as everyone expects, because I have real concerns. And I know I'm against the grain when it comes to the Suns Twitter here. Suns Twitter is just in love with this guy, but I have real concerns about Yusuf Nurkic handling that defense.
Oh yeah.
They have the best defensive coach, or one of the best in basketball. I understand that, and he can make anything into gold. But man, like I know I've seen Yusuf Nurkic defend many possessions in my life, and he's not getting better, Aaron. He's not getting better.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. I mean, that is a very valid concern, because you look at any team that wins the championship. I mean, you can't have a turnstile in the middle and expect to win at the highest level. It's just it's not how it goes. The Raptors had Marc Gasol. Some of those Warriors teams had Bogut. I mean, you go down the line, all these guys. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to have somebody in the middle. I mean, with the Nuggets and Jokic, he's no longer that defensive guy that's going to just like lose you games. He's not as vulnerable as he used to be. And he was
really good against Miami. He was a really good defender.
100%. Like, he just know where to be on the court. His positioning was great. His hands are great. He's one of the smartest guys on the basketball court any given night. So he used that to his advantage. Even he was able to hang and really just keep himself from being a liability defensively. As you mentioned, Nurkic is not that guy. He's very slow-footed. He's one of those guys, like, not every 7-footer is built equal. Some 7-footers are lightning fast. And then other 7-footers like Nurkic, they move like they're 7 feet tall. It's very difficult for them to play any kind of coverage.
Yeah.
You got to play them drop. I mean, if you try to do anything other than that, it just seems like you're just putting them out to dry.
And the reason I even bring it up, Aaron, is because I'm just thinking through scenarios of playoff. I'm not even worried about regular season. I think they can win. I think their ceiling is probably about 56 wins. Like they could really be a great team.
They're going to score so many. It's not even going to matter at that point.
I'm just thinking about a playoff series against Golden State. What happens? Mm-hmm. I'm thinking about a series against Denver. Jamal Murray going just berserk.
Oh my God! But he's gonna have a 30-point half.
You know what I'm saying? It's just like people always point out, oh, Nurkic is big and tall and long. Like he can affect Jokic. He's not going to stop him, but he's better than Ayton. Is what I hear. He gives you a better chance than Ayton. It's like, yeah, but I mean, I think Ayton's more physical. I don't know that he's built better. He's younger. He's fresher. I can actually bank on improvement there. I can't really bank on something I've seen a decade of at this point,
right.
you know? So I don't know. Like I just think they lose a playoff series against Denver or Golden State. And that's really it. I think every other team they'll beat in the West. But you know, they better hope their bracket breaks right or something. But I don't know, man. Like I'm really fascinated by this team just for that defensive reason. But also just look at their cast of characters, dude. Like they revamped the entire roster outside of Devin and Kevin. Right?
Yep.
Someone else? I think it was it. And Josh Okogie. Like, really, I mean, it's Utah Watanabe, it's Eric Gordon. Just they have so much more shooting now than they had last year, which is going to help them in these playoff series. Like, you're not going to see the bench just put up zeros and donuts. They're actually going to be a really good team. And I really wonder who they're going to start and close with. I mean, to me, I would start Josh Okogie as the fifth starter because I love his aggression and activity.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I could really see scenarios where Frank Vogel just needs more shooting out there, or once Eric Gordon just spotted up 35 feet away from the rim, which he can do, and defenses will respect it. I really love their depth compared to last year.
Me too. I was really down on the Suns until they started working the wire and making those deals in the offseason. Every single time they made a move, I was like, that's pretty solid. I like that too. That's a sneaky pickup. That's a good minimum signing. Watanabe, I can dig that. Bates Diop, I like that. So they just kind of worked on the margins really well in the offseason, which I think gives them a great chance, like you said, to kind of right the wrongs of last year. You don't have to play your big three 45 minutes every game and just have them completely run out of gas. I mean, it's really crazy to think about. They took 2 games off of Denver in that series with no bench. So, I mean, just imagine a guy like Aaron Gordon be able to come in and kind of steady the ship and other guys like that. I'm also really excited to see what they can do. And a lot of people also talk, and this is something I'm sure you've encountered too, especially on Twitter. They don't have a point guard and this, that, and the other. And I know,
I hate position. I hate point guards.
But you think about this, and I talked to somebody about this on Twitter as well the other day. These guys, all 3 of these guys, they've played with other great talents before. And there's only one basketball, but I mean, Booker played with KD last year. He's played with Chris Paul. KD's played with the Warriors. He's played with Curry. He's played with Clay. Beal spent a season with Westbrook. I think they can kind of find their way off the ball to make that work. And Booker's had extensive time on the ball working in the pick and rolls. And I think it was like maybe his 4th or 5th season where they had like no pure points on the roster. I think when they had like Tyler Ulis and people like that. And like it was like, all right, Booker's got to run all these pick and rolls. He's got to lead the offense. And I remember he did pretty well. His assist numbers were good. So I think that experience for him it gives him confidence. And I think I trust him along with Beal and these other guys to be the point by committee,
I would tell folks, I know this isn't the greatest sample size or competition really, but I would tell guys to go watch the Clippers series from last year, Clippers Suns, first round. Booker's reads, second to none really when it comes to an off guard player.
Oh
Can't
yeah.
really think of another two guard that makes those reads. I mean, it's really awesome the strides he's taken there, and I think having a 3 guard attack, if you want to call it KD in a guard spot, which he's going to be bringing the ball up off the offense or defensive rebounds as well, so might as well just call him a guard. But you know what people are underestimating? I think people are underestimating that Bradley Beal still has some burst, can still get to the rim. We didn't
Yeah.
see really a lot of it in Washington, but he's quick. Just off the preseason stuff, I mean, he has some shiftiness to him. I think he's going to be able to fill in some of that rim pressure that they're lacking. They were really lacking it with CP. Love my boy CP, but that boy cannot move anymore.
No.
So it's
No.
he's just mid range and done, 17-footer and done. That's all CP
Yep.
is at this point. So
Exactly.
Bradley Beal gives them a little bit more variety there.
For sure. So all that together, man. I mean, it's insane. I mean, what was that? I think it was the other night. It's not their last preseason game. I think it was like their second to last preseason game where like all 3 of those guys, they played like 20 something minutes and they all had like 18 points, 19 points. Like it's just the offensive ceiling. Like, are you pretty confident that they will finish as the best offense in the NBA this season?
If you can, I tweeted that the other day, but then I started thinking like, hey, KD's probably going to miss 30 games. Like, so you're only going to
It's
have
possible,
2. Yeah, you're only going to have 2 of these guys together for the most part. I mean, hopefully all of them play 65 plus and we don't have to worry about that. And maybe something we haven't talked about, it's not really worth talking about, but the incentive of having the awards criteria be 65, like I think
huge.
guys are going to push back on their medical staffs a little bit. And now I say it that way because I am so sick and tired. I know you've seen me talk about this. I'm so sick and tired of people calling it a player's problem.
Yeah.
It's the I know the Clippers medical staff and what they and what they're doing. Like they are holding these guys out.
Yeah. The
I don't
players
really
want
know
to
about
play.
yeah, I don't know about other teams. I don't know about Miami, when it comes to Jimmy or whatever the case is. But like I think these guys are just being told, hey, it's probably smart if you sit tonight. But I think they're going to push back a little bit. So we'll see.
Sure.
But yeah, I guess to answer your question, like if you guarantee me 60 plus games for all 3, Brad, Devin, and Kevin, I'm pretty confident because I think they're going to take more threes than they did last year.
Yeah.
The reason they were capped last year at like whatever they finished 10th, maybe a little bit around there in terms of offense, maybe a little bit higher. I can't really remember. But I think that's going to go up quite a bit because they're going to take 8 more threes a game.
Yeah. Agreed. 100% agreed. To round this out, man, I want to throw in one more team here to kind of close this out. And we'll go back to the East on this one. This is a team that they're going to be in the play-in bubble, I guess. Play-in bubble.
Is it close to home here? Is it close to me?
Yeah, it is actually.
Okay, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Anywhere between 8 and 10, I think they can end up 8, 10, somewhere like that. Indiana, man.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Indiana a little bit just because I think they're starting to become one of those teams you have to keep an eye on because, okay, no, maybe we might not see an OKC level type of explosion or, they're going to break straight into the playoffs where they're out of the play-in. But as far as just a team that's starting to ascend because they have a game changer in Halliburton, you have to keep your eye on them. And then also in the draft, this is one of my favorite guys in the draft. No, he's not going to be a superstar. I don't see a crazy high ceiling for him. But Jarris Walker, that pick for them next to Miles Turner, I freaking love that fit, man. Just Miles Turner is a guy that, okay, the shooting is there already. Jarris Walker doesn't have to be a guy that's going to be launching 6 threes a game and, has to put that kind of pressure on the defense. He can just focus on what he does best, kind of being a mid-post guy, I think he's a plus passer at that position, a physical player, gets on the boards, high motor, a guy like that next to Turner. I mean, that's what they've been looking for, I think, for the past couple of years, and they found it through the draft. You bring in Obi Toppin, who, he has some deficiencies. We know that, but a guy that's going to be interesting to watch at the very least. Gives you an A-plus vertical spacing presence there on the roster. Buddy Hield is going to be Buddy Hield. He's going to shoot 20,000 threes a game and, just just be a little bit unpredictable, but in a good way. And the coaching is A+. We know
I just
what Rick
think,
Carlisle has done.
yeah,
So I mean, across the roster, man, I like what they're building here. Bruce Brown, a guy that's he's making a lot of money, but sometimes you got to make a deal like that because you have a need. You have to pay a guy according to your needs, maybe not necessarily according to how good the player is in a vacuum. But they needed a guy like Bruce Brown. He's a playmaker. He's a rebounder. He's a much improved shooter. And when you put all the pieces together, yeah, maybe they're a year or two away from being a true threat to the upper seeds in the East. But if you're looking for a team that's just going to be fun, a team that's on the rise, I think that's going to get better every single month of the season. I got to put in Indiana in there, man. So where did you say you had them finishing? Did you have them
I
like
have
8,
them.
9?
I have them number 8 at 40 and 42, so a little bit under
Okay.
500. But
Okay.
I always just factor in injuries. Like I'm just going to factor
Yeah.
in 15 missed games from a star player.
Yeah.
It
That's
just
fair.
is what it is.
That's fair.
Tyrese had what was that, a bad ankle or was it a knee? I think it was a knee. It was a
Yeah. I
knee
think it was
problem
a
he had
knee.
last year.
Yeah.
So I love that people are going to be tuning into this team. But I'm just looking at something. They have so many guards, so
They
many
do.
guards. I mean, guards that need minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
you got it, buddy, for the spacing purposes and the fact that he will let it fly. He's not scared. He does not care. I mean, he took a 3 seconds into the game. Remember that?
Yep.
And made
Yep.
it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but Buddy, Andrew Nimhard, Bruce Brown, um, uh, Tyrese Halliburton, obviously, and then I guess you saw McConnell. Is McConnell still going to play? Lord, he's been there for a while. It seems like.
Yeah. I mean,
Jeez.
I bet on him getting some decent minutes just because he's just one of
Yeah,
he's a pest when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. He's
yeah,
I mean, I've seen a few games, man, where I don't remember if he actually got the triple double, but he's been a triple double watch. I mean, he's just
yeah.
everywhere, man. I think a guy like that, a guy like
Matherin, I
Carlisle, is
forgot
just gonna
Ben
gravitate
Matherin
to him.
too.
Matherin, yeah. Which Matherin,
Oh,
I want to see more from him as far as he has extreme tunnel vision. I've noticed just watching him in the summer league and some clips from last season. Like, I just hope he gets a little bit better of just kind of creating space for his teammates and finding them, on driving kicks and things like that. Great scorer, great player, but I think he really needs to clean up that part of his game. Just something I noticed recently.
yeah, and hey, for a first year guy that was just kind of a chucker, 56% true shooting, like league average. That's
Not bad.
fine, really. I mean,
Not
for
bad.
for a rookie, that was good.
Natural
Um,
score for sure.
I'm hoping, the guy you pointed out, Jarris Walker. I'm hoping he has a serviceable to good shot.
It's a
Because
question
I
mark right now.
I
It
really
really
want
is.
that because I want that pairing to where you don't have to worry. You could play him with Turner, and I would love some 5 out semblance of an offense there if you can
Yeah.
possibly play them together. So, because we know Obi's not really that kind of guy. So,
Mhm.
and I mean, they have constraints. They have roster constraints. I worry about their ability to defend like wings and like when you go against maybe a Clippers, Lakers, something like. I've seen Paul George eat this team up every time I've been there. That kind of archetype that really gives them issues in certain instances, but that you could say that for a lot of teams around the league. So I think this team, we want to talk about ranges. I think they have a really small range. They're not bottoming out. They want to win.
Yeah.
Rick Carlisle wants to win, wants to compete. I feel like there's always going to be like in that play-in mix, right?
Yeah.
At least until what is this? Tyrese is his third. It's going into his fourth year. Is that correct?
Think fourth. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, for him, he's already the stud. He's already the star. You kind of forget that he averaged 20 and 10. I mean, not a lot of guys averaged 20 and 10 last year,
True.
right? A short handful there, but I want to see him get to the line more. I want to see continue to shoot the ball. I mean, the fact that he went from 5 attempts a game as a rookie up to 7 now, so it's always great to see in my book. So yeah, I mean, it's funny that Carlisle is kind of coaching this team because it's not the type of Carlisle team you would think of, right? I don't.
Not traditionally, no.
It's
It's a
always
little bit
felt
different.
weird he's coaching this team. But
Yeah.
hey, man, last year they had too many injuries. Um, hopefully they kind of break through. But yeah, I got them at about 40 wins.
I'm with that, man. I think 35 to 40 is
Yeah.
where they're going to be. Just you don't even really have to think about it.
And guess what? If you're a play-in team, you can go to the NBA Finals, Aaron.
That's true. It has been proven. It is possible. Good point, man. But I think that's wraps it up here, man, for our teams here. So I mean, obviously, there's every team is super interesting in their own right, but
Yeah.
these specifically are however many teams we highlighted, 6, 7, 8, that we think you got to keep your eye on.
Mm-hmm.
Put them on your league pass favorites. Anytime they're on national television, especially with teams like Indiana, they may only get 1 or 2 appearances.
Yeah.
So got to tune in for those games. Got to check them out for a variety of reasons that we highlight on this podcast. Shane, thanks so much again, man. Always a great conversation. Continue to be a big fan of your work. Keep doing what you're doing. All great stuff. Where can the people find you if they want to check out some of your work in the basketball space?
Appreciate you, Aaron. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter or X at Young NBA, and then obviously on Forbes Sports, gonna have some stuff. I've had a lot of stuff going on over the summer, so didn't get a lot of content out, but had a good talk with Jamal Murray the other day. That was up on the site now, and then gonna probably just be writing about a lot of Western Conference stuff. Suns, as Aaron mentioned, Suns, Clippers, and probably tapping in some Nuggets as well. So
Nice. Love the stuff, man. It's all fantastic content. For NTC, we're about to ramp up our content here again, going into another NBA campaign. So stay tuned for more content over on our Twitter, Instagram, our website. Our picks are updated. Our cap sheets page is always going to be updated for you guys. So if there's any trades, signings, cuts, roster cuts, there's a lot of those going on right now, laying up to the deadline for those to be made. So keep it locked on our site. We have a lot more content coming your way as we get deeper into this NBA season. So thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in for another episode. We'll be back with you soon for some more basketball conversations. Until then, take care and enjoy the rest of your day.